You're standing in the aisle looking at a bag of lawn food with a price on it that would have bought me a week's diesel. $48, $60. There's a picture of a green lawn on the front and a name that sounds like a chemical company. And you're about to put it in the cart because that's what you do every year. Put it back. I'm not going to keep you guessing about what to buy instead because that's a trick and you've had enough of those. It's urea, 46 naught naught. It sits on a pallet at any farm supply or co-op in the country in a 50-pound bag, and it costs about $25. That bag will feed an average lawn 6 or 7 times over. Call it $3 or $4 a feeding. It is the same nitrogen. Not similar, the same. I bought fertilizer by the pallet for 40 years, and I never once bought it by the name on the front. You buy it by the 3 numbers on the back, and the whole trade knows that. And nobody selling to homeowners has any reason to tell you. So that's the answer, and you've got it in the first 2 minutes. What's left is the part that actually matters, because urea will burn your lawn brown in an afternoon if you put it down wrong. And about half the people who try it do exactly that and go back to the expensive bag thinking they learned something. There's one mistake in particular that throws away nearly half of what you spread, and it happens after the spreader is already back in the shed. I'll come to it. First, what those 3 numbers are. Every bag of fertilizer in this country carries 3 numbers on it: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Always in that order, always a percentage by weight. 46 naught naught means 46% nitrogen and nothing else in the bag but the carrier. Turn over the expensive bag and read it. You'll very often find 24 naught 4 or 29 naught 3. That means 70-some% of what you're carrying to the car is not fertilizer. It's filler, ground limestone, clay, sand, something inert to bulk it out and make it spread evenly. You're paying by the bag and using by the nitrogen. That's the whole business right there. Run the arithmetic once, and you won't forget it. A 30-pound bag at $48 at 24% nitrogen holds a bit over 7 pounds of actual nitrogen. That's roughly $6.50 a pound. A 50-pound bag of urea at $25 at 46% holds 23 pounds of nitrogen. That's about $1.10 a pound, 6 times the price for the identical element. The grass cannot tell them apart. It doesn't read the bag. It takes up nitrogen as nitrate and ammonium, and it has no way of knowing what it cost you. Now, the branded bag isn't a swindle exactly. Some of them are slow release, coated so they feed over 8 or 10 weeks, and that's a genuine thing you're paying for. But it's not 6 times the value, and I'll show you how to get most of that benefit for nothing before we're done. While we're on labels, a word about the liquid ones, because they're the most expensive nitrogen a person can buy. A hose-end bottle of lawn feed is mostly water. You're paying to ship water across the country, and then you add more water to it at the tap. Read the analysis on one of those, and you'll often find 4% nitrogen, sometimes less, against 46. Liquid does have one honest advantage. It goes onto the leaf as well as the soil, and the plant takes a little of it up directly. So you see color faster, 3 or 4 days instead of a week. That's it. That's the whole benefit. And it lasts about a fortnight because there's so little actual food in the bottle. If you want that fast color and you want it cheap, dissolve a little urea in water yourself. It goes into solution readily in a watering can. But you have to be careful with the rate, and honestly, for most people, the granules and a sprinkler are the simpler road. So that's what I'd have you do. Second, how much to actually put down. This is where people hurt themselves, so I want you to hear the number rather than guess it. You are aiming for about 1 pound of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per feeding. Not 1 pound of urea, 1 pound of nitrogen. Since urea is 46%, you divide. 1 divided by 0.46 is a shade over 2. So, 2 pounds of urea per 1,000 square feet. Round it to 2 even and you're right. Measure your lawn once, properly, with a tape. Most people badly overestimate. A lawn that looks like an acre is very often 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. If you've got 5,000 square feet, that's 10 pounds of urea per feeding, a fifth of the bag. Set your spreader low and go over the lawn twice at right angles rather than once heavy. Half the rate each pass. That gives you an even coat and it's very forgiving. A heavy overlap at half rate does nothing. A heavy overlap at full rate leaves a brown stripe you'll be looking at until October. And weigh it. Don't trust the little chart on the side of the spreader, because those are written for whatever product the spreader manufacturer had in mind, and urea flows differently. Put a bucket on a bathroom scale, weigh out what you need for your lawn, and put only that in the hopper. When the hopper is empty, you're done. That one habit makes it near impossible to burn anything. A word on the spreader itself, since it's the only tool this job needs. A broadcast spreader, the kind with a spinning plate underneath, throws granules out in an arc 6 or 8 feet wide. It's quick and the coverage is soft at the edges, which is what you want, because a soft edge means your overlap doesn't double the rate. That's the one to own. A drop spreader lays granules straight down between its wheels in a band exactly as wide as the machine. The coverage is precise and it doesn't fling anything into your borders, but it's unforgiving. Miss a wheel width and you get a green stripe with a pale one beside it, and you'll see it all season. If you're using a drop spreader, overlap the wheel tracks deliberately. Whichever you've got, walk at a steady pace, not fast, not strolling, and open the hopper after you started walking and close it before you stop, because a spreader standing still with the gate open is dumping the whole lot in one spot. That's the classic dead patch by the shed door, and near everyone has made it once. Wash it out afterward. Urea is corrosive to a spreader left damp, and they don't cost nothing. Third, and this is the one I said I'd come back to, water it in within 24 hours. Every time, no exceptions. Here's what's happening. Urea sitting on the surface doesn't stay urea. There's an enzyme in your soil and in the thatch called urease, and it breaks urea down, and one of the things it turns it into is ammonia gas. Gas goes where gas goes, into the air, over the fence, gone. On a warm, dry day with a bit of wind, you can lose a third of what you spread inside 2 days. On a hot one, more. You did the work, you paid the money, and a good part of it went up into the sky and did nothing for anybody. Half an inch of water carries it down into the soil where the roots are, and once it's down there, it's safe. Rain does it for free if there's a decent rain forecast in the next day. Spread ahead of it and let the weather do the job. Otherwise, put a sprinkler on it. 20 minutes on each zone will usually do. This is the difference between urea working brilliantly and urea working half as well as the expensive bag. It isn't the product, it's the 20 minutes afterward. And once it's watered in, leave it be. I want to tell you what the next fortnight looks like, because not knowing is what makes people do something daft. Days 1 and 2, nothing. Days 3 to 5, still nothing much, and this is where the doubt sets in. Around day 6 or 7, you'll start to see it. Not a dramatic change, a deepening. The green gets darker rather than brighter. By day 10 to 14, it's fully in, and the grass is growing faster, which means you'll be mowing more often for a few weeks. That's not a side effect, that's the fertilizer working. The danger is the doubt at day 4. Every year, somebody decides it didn't take, goes out and spreads a second dose on top of the first, and burns the lawn with 2 pounds of nitrogen it never asked for. Then the brown comes, and they blame the urea. It's working. You just can't see it yet. Put the bag in the shed and go and do something else for a week. Fourth, when not to put it down at all. Never on wet grass. If there's dew on it, or you've just watered, or it rained an hour ago, wait. Granules stick to a wet blade, sit there dissolving against the leaf, and burn a hole straight through it. Dry grass, then water, that order, never the other way round. Never in the heat of the day, and never in a heat wave. Cool season grass in July is already under strain, and nitrogen pushes it to grow when it hasn't the water to support the growth. Early morning or evening, and if the week ahead is over 90, leave it. Never more than about a pound of nitrogen at a go. If you want more feeding, feed more often, not heavier. I learned that last one the expensive way. I had a block of young roses in the field, thousands of them, budded stock I'd been 2 years bringing on, and I wanted them moving. I went over that block heavy with nitrogen on a dry, warm week, and I did not water it in. And then the weather turned and gave me an inch of rain 3 days later, all at once, on ground that was already loaded. They went. Not all of them, but enough that I remember the row. I've said before that I killed more roses learning this trade than most folks ever plant, and that was the week that earned me the line. Nothing wrong with the fertilizer. Nothing wrong with the roses. The plan was wrong, and it was my plan. Fifth, timing, and for most of the country, right now is the point of the year. If you have cool season grass, and most of the northern half of this country does, fescue, bluegrass, ryegrass, then autumn is not the end of your lawn's year. It's the important part of it. The heat is coming off, the soil is still warm, and the plant stops putting its effort into blades and puts it into roots and into crown density. That's what carries it through next summer. 2 feedings. The first around the start of September, give or take a fortnight for how far north you are. The second in late October or early November, when the grass has more or less stopped growing but is still green. That second one is the one nobody does, and it's the best feeding of the year. The grass isn't making top growth anymore, so nearly all of that nitrogen goes into roots and into storage. You won't see much for it in November. You'll see it in April when your lawn greens up 2 weeks before the neighbors and you haven't touched it. If you have warm season grass, Bermuda, Zoysia, St. Augustine, through the south, invert all of that. You feed through the summer and you stop about 6 weeks before your first frost, because pushing soft growth into a frost is a way to lose turf. One caution, because a lot of you will be putting seed down this month as well, and the 2 jobs collide. Do not put urea on new seed. A seedling has a root an inch long and no reserves, and straight nitrogen against it will scorch it off before it ever establishes. Grown grass shrugs at a mistake that kills a seedling outright. If you're overseeding, get the seed down first and leave the nitrogen alone for about 4 to 6 weeks until the new grass has been mown twice. Then feed it. The new seedlings will be tough enough by then and they'll take it well. The exception is if a soil test tells you the ground is short of phosphorus, which is what seedlings actually want. And in that case, a proper starter product is worth the money for that one application. But that's the only time I'd send you to the branded shelf, and only with a test in your hand. Sixth, and this is where I have to correct something you may have picked up. There is a lot of talk about kitchen powders on lawns, and most of it is nonsense, and one piece of it does real harm. Baking soda is not a fertilizer. It has no nitrogen in it at all. It's sodium bicarbonate, and the sodium half of that is the problem. Sodium collects in soil, it doesn't wash out readily, and it breaks down the crumb structure so the ground packs tight and the water stops moving through it. People spread it because somebody told them it kills weeds or greens grass, and it does neither. And 2 years on, they've got a compacted patch they can't explain. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. If your soil is genuinely short of magnesium, it will do something. Most soil in this country isn't, and you'd need a soil test to know. Without a test, you're guessing. Sugar, dish soap, beer, mouthwash, none of it feeds grass. Some of it is harmless and some isn't. If somebody hands you a cheap answer and can't tell you the 3 numbers on it, it isn't fertilizer. That's the test, and it's a good one. Seventh, what urea will not fix. This matters because if you spread nitrogen at a problem nitrogen doesn't solve, you'll conclude it doesn't work and you'll be wrong. Urea will not fix pH. If your soil has drifted acid, and a lot of ground in the eastern half of the country does, the grass cannot take up what's already there, no matter how much you add. You'd be feeding a plant that can't reach its plate. Since I've sent you for a soil test, let me tell you what you're looking at when it comes back, because those sheets are written for agronomists and they put people off. Ignore most of it. 3 lines matter. The pH number is the first. Grass wants somewhere between 6 and 7. 6.5 is about perfect. Below 6 and it starts locking up nutrients, and below 5.5 you can spread nitrogen all year and see very little for it. Above 7.5, which happens out west, iron becomes the problem instead and the grass goes pale between the veins. The second line is phosphorus, usually reported low, medium, high, or as a number of parts per million. If it says medium or better, you need none, and in a good many states, you're not permitted to add it anyway. The third is potassium. Same idea. If it's low, that's when the potash is worth buying. Everything else on the sheet is detail you can leave alone. If the pH comes back acid, you want lime. And autumn is exactly the right time to put it down because it works slowly and wants the winter to do it. Pelletized lime spreads through an ordinary broadcast spreader. The test will tell you the rate. Don't guess at it, and don't put down more than 50 pounds per 1,000 square feet in one go, no matter what the number says. Split it over 2 autumns if it calls for more than that. And don't spread lime and urea the same week. Lime raises pH at the surface for a while, and urea losing nitrogen to the air happens faster in alkaline conditions. Separate them by a fortnight, and you keep what you paid for. A test costs a few dollars through your county extension office and takes 10 minutes to post. It is the single best money in lawn care, and almost nobody spends it. Urea will not fix compaction. If the ground is packed hard and water sits on it, the roots have no air and nothing you feed them changes that. Test it with a screwdriver. Push it into damp soil, and if you can't get 6 inches in with hand pressure, you've got compaction. And what you want is a core aerator, not a bag. Urea will not fix grubs, and it will not kill weeds. Different problems, different answers. And one honest word on the slow-release business I mentioned earlier. If you want the steady feeding the coated products give you, you don't buy the coating, you split the dose. Half a pound of nitrogen every 3 weeks does much the same job as a pound every 6, and it costs you nothing but a second trip round the lawn. Eighth, the rest of the shelf, since you'll be at the co-op anyway. Potash is not 60. Muriate of potash. If your soil test asks for potassium, that's the cheap way to buy it. And the same arithmetic applies. You're buying 60% instead of 3 or 4. Ammonium sulfate is 21 . Less nitrogen per pound than urea, so you spread more of it, but it acidifies slightly as it works. If you're on alkaline ground, out west particularly, that's worth something. Phosphorus, I'll say carefully. A good many states now restrict what you can put on an established lawn because of what runs off into the water, and established turf rarely needs it anyway. Check your state before you buy any, and don't put it down without a soil test telling you to. Store all of it dry and sealed. Urea pulls moisture out of the air, and if you leave the bag open in a damp shed, it'll set into a block by spring. Bin with a lid, off the concrete floor. That bag should last you 2 years. Ninth and last, the cheapest nitrogen of the lot, which costs nothing at all. Stop bagging your clippings. Grass is mostly water, and what's left when it dries is a good deal of nitrogen, the same nitrogen you spread on it. Every time you catch the clippings and put them out for collection, you are carting your fertilizer off the property and paying to replace it. Leave them where they fall, and over a season, they return something like a quarter of what a lawn needs. They don't cause thatch. Thatch is stem and root material, not leaf, and clippings break down in a matter of weeks. That's an old story that won't die. 2 conditions. Mow often enough that you're only taking a third of the blade height at a time, so the clippings are short and drop down into the sward instead of lying on top in rows. And mow when it's dry. Wet clippings clump, and a clump sitting on grass for 3 days kills what's under it. While we're there, raise your mower. Most people cut too short. 3 inches, 3.5 for fescue, is what you want. Longer leaf means more root beneath it, and more root means the lawn finds its own water in August instead of asking you for it. A tall lawn also shades the soil so weed seed gets less light to germinate against. Long grass, deep roots, clippings left where they fall. That's most of a lawn's feeding done before you've bought anything. So $25 twice a year on a lawn that costs most people $200. If you take one thing from all of this, take the watering in. Not the price, not the arithmetic, the 20 minutes with a sprinkler after you spread. That's the step that decides whether this works or whether you join the people who tried urea once and went back to the expensive bag. Tell me in the comments what your lawn's doing this year, and what the bag you've been buying costs. I read them, and I'd like to know what they're charging now. The label is for the buyer. The numbers are for the grass. If you want more plain-spoken lawn advice that puts the grass before the bag, subscribe to Old Amos.